It's time for the Salt and Sass podcast, when we share our love for the wonderful world of board games with you, whether you're a gaming veteran or just starting your tabletop journey. Welcome to episode 75. Aw, 75! I'm Suzanne.
And I'm Mandi.
Welcome back to the podcast, everybody. Woo! A lot of podcast episodes, Mandi. I love it. And we are back from GenCon 2025. And, you know, folks, convention season and convention time throws everything off, I gotta say. So this show might be a little off rhythm from other shows. I think we're going to talk about games, like video games, because we've been traveling. Those are easy to play remote. And we're going to talk about a lot about our GenCon experience. We have a neat little game pie to serve up, but I don't think we're going to do a bunch of game reviews this particular episode. But we've got a lot of games to talk about in future episodes, right, Mandi?
Yes, absolutely. I have a huge stack that says yes. Yes, we do.
So, Mandi, where do you want to start? Do you want to go ahead and tackle some of the little random bits and bobs that you sometimes have tucked in your pocket, or do you want to jump into GenCon first?
Now, let's save GenCon, because I think we're gonna have a few things to cover there. So let's maybe just talk about some of the other things we've been doing, if that works for you.
Please.
Excellent.
You know that those chipmunk cartoons from like, where it was like, oh, please, after you. No,
yeah.
Please,
oh no, but I couldn't.
First.
No.
I couldn't yet.
Exactly. That's how it's feeling right now. So, okay, I'm just gonna jump in with video games. I'm very happily finished Date Everything, and of course,
did you indeed date everything, Mandi?
You bet your bottom dollar I did.
You hussy.
I know, I was a big hussy, and I'm here for it. So it was, I think the game was supposed to take like 20 hours or something, but because I have to exhaust every piece of dialogue, it took me like 50 some odd hours to finish.
Cool.
What can I say? It was interesting, and I had fun with it. So if that's kind of your jam, they classify it as like a dating sim, I guess. But I mean, I just like story, and it seemed really fun. So I like the different personalities. So Date Everything. I mean, I did pay full price for this game, I know, but I got my money's worth, so I was okay with that.
Excellent.
So there's that. I've picked up Kathy Rain. Kathy Rain is not a new game. It's I guess you'd say like it's a mystery kind of puzzle solve type of game, and it's a little misleading when you look at the art on the Steam page. It has like almost like a cartoon, like a more modern cartoon vibe, but when you actually play the game, it is more like pixel art type game, so it definitely has that retro vibe to it, which I really like and I'm here for. Pretty straightforward, simplistic kind of controls, although I was struggling a little bit with picking up items and then applying it to another item, but I got it, and I've been playing it on the Steam Deck, and it's been going really well. So I'm about 5 or 6 hours in that. You're trying to solve the mystery of behind your grandfather's death, and there are a few things that happened. Looking deep into that. So it's a popular game. I think I bought it on sale a while back and hadn't picked it up, and I thought, you know what, let's just try something a bit light. So Kathy Rain. Whew. I've also been
investigating your grandfather's death for a little light-hearted gaming.
I know, and she's so sassy. I love it. It's great.
Perfect.
Elden Ring, Night Rain. I won't get too deep into that. We'll be streaming that every Wednesday on the channel with Slivers, who also listens to the podcast and has also done a few kind of videos on their own channel as well. My friend Brian. So if you want to see me die a lot, to be fair, I've gotten better, but it is the group version. So it's the new version of Elden Ring that's meant to be played with a group. We did fairly well on our last jaunt. So heck, you know what? We had a good time, and I do think I've improved. So I'm happy. So we're going to be doing that for the next little while. All right. Almost there. Two things I want to talk about.
Yeah,
I know. I feel like it's been a while. Is this seat taken? So this is a game that
looks cute. I love the style.
It's so cute, and it really is not a complicated game. It's, I'll say, puzzle-esque. Like, you're trying to make sure that certain people fit on whatever mode of transportation they bring to the stop, but you can't. It'll say this person can't sit beside someone who's messy but needs to be close to the front to see the movie or show that you're watching or whatever. So there are stipulations on where the people can sit, which then makes it tricky, right? It gets progressively more difficult trying to put them in the right spot. And you can be in like a movie theater or a bus or something like that. It sounds really silly, but honestly, lighthearted, and I had a really good time with it. So this is one, I think it's 10% off now, as in like it's launch, I might get it. I know, but it's not too expensive. So I might I might spend the money because I just thought it was super cute and I had fun with it. And the last one I have here is Tiny Bookshop. So this is on my wish list. I'll be honest with you, I don't know a ton about Tiny bookshop, but I literally think if it's the one I'm thinking of, because I had two bookshop ones. There's one where you're like managing your own bookstore, and I hope I'm not confusing it with the other
I'm
one.
looking it up right now as you're talking.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, tell me because I can't remember. And that one also, as you're doing that, I don't want to give you all false information here.
This is where you open a tiny bookshop by the sea and a cozy narrative management game.
There it is. Okay, so I was like mostly right, but yeah, it is definitely has more of a cozy vibe. But there's another one I have on my wish list where it is definitely not maybe as cozy, like you're literally opening this bookshop and I think you're managing a bookshop, might fall into more of like a sim versus
Hardcore
this.
capitalism bookshop the game. Got
Yeah,
it.
that's right. The way I'm feeling, that might be something I want to do. Crush it. Sorry, that was aggressive. But a tiny bookshop, if that sounds like something you're into, that also launched today, and I think that one's like 10% off as well. That is what I have for video games. I have a few other things I've touched on, but I think Suzanne's actually going to talk about a couple of them, and she's probably played them a little more than I have. So, Suzanne, what is on your
maybe,
list?
maybe not. You know, traveling, I have my Steam Deck. I love that device. I feel lucky to have one because it really enables me to play on the go. I played a lot of Drop Dutchy, which I talked about previously, but Drop Dutchy is almost a tile laying game. Kind of Tetrisy, kind of not, where you have these shapes that have terrain types and they're dropping down, they're different towers and things like that. And so you're dropping these blocks down and fitting them and meeting different scoring conditions. And then at the end of a round, you form a battle. So how many axe troops did you get? How many sword troops? And you do all this thing and try to win battles as you go through the level. You unlock new things that you can add and that kind of thing. I like it. I'm not sure I love it, but I like it a lot. I think I wanted more Tetris from it than it gives. So it's more tile laying. And once I accept that, then I enjoy it more.
Sure.
If you are a fan of word games and roguelikes, then this has been your month because 3 games in that category have dropped. So you can check out Wordplay, Wordatro, and Vertigo. And all 3, I know, whatever. It's like, it's cute. Vertigo is like you have to complete words, get points, and the better your score, the farther your bird flies down its path. It's adorable. But all 3 of them are basically word, spell a word, get upgrades, make letters more powerful, get new letters, get special abilities, that kind of thing. So they actually are all conceptually very similar. I haven't really dove into each of them individually enough yet, but I thought I'd mention it because I like word games and I like roguelikes, and now it's just dinner is good on that front. And then Pip My Dice is out. I can't remember if we talked about it previously, but Pip My Dice
mentioned
is out.
It, but we didn't really get into
dice
details.
Building roguelike. Again, this is really no theme, just play. And I don't have a problem with that. So you get a handful of dice, standard D6s, and you get 3 scoring bars. And then you're rolling dice and you're allocating them to make Yahtzee or poker-like scoring combos. As you earn money, you can buy upgrades and change the faces of the dice. You can get relics or powers and try to beat scores. I actually really like it. I'm going to dive into it a little bit more. Full release just came out. I played some of the demo, but Pip My Dice, if you're into that kind of thing, definitely worth at least taking a peek at. I think there's a demo too. So
I'm looking at the page now. Apparently it's in my library.
Yeah, maybe because I got it for you.
Did you?
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I think I see my memory is just shot. So there you go. But you've mentioned it again. So now I have to try it.
Now you can check it out. And then the game I actually played the most on the go at GenCon was Next Station London and Next Station Paris, because there are mobile apps for these games. And of course, Next Station London, Next Station Paris, 2 of my favorite roll and write style games where you use different colored pencils and there's 4 rounds and you flip cards and you go around. The app is very smooth and simple to play. It plays great mobile, and it was just so great to like listen to some music and just tip, tip, tap and see how I could score on 2 great roll and write style games. So Next Station London and Next Station Paris, highly recommend them. Really, really enjoyed them for sure. Ooh. And then Mandi, you and I both got an app version that we need to play together soon.
Yes, I did a quick just to test it out solo stream, but it's never fun playing with the AI. It's fun to play together, and when I get crushed by you, it's much more enjoyable than the AI. That's King Domino. So I've been playing it on the iPad, and I did a quick solo stream of it. It's really fun. I really liked
Yeah, it's
it.
really
I thought
polished.
yeah, really easy to use, super clear. The tutorial made sense because I like to go through the tutorial. Yes, I am not a rules reader. I'll like go through the tutorial and see how it guides me. And if I need to touch on the rules, I will. But if I'm like super confused, then I feel like you haven't done a good enough job in navigating me through these things. But this one did. So looking forward to trying more of that. A lot of people didn't know King Domino was an app, and I saw that's coming to Steam as well.
New.
It is, yes, and it's apparently coming to Steam. I saw that it's there, but I don't know if it's available yet. So, King Domino,
Cool.
there you go.
Alrighty, well, that's enough digital goods.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Gen Con and a couple of other topics in accordance with my New Year's resolution about bringing more industry discussions to the podcast. I do want to. I don't know if it's a content warning, but some of our discussions after we talk about Gen Con or perhaps during, as it's relevant, relate to anti-trans sentiment and racism, like flat out racist imagery and racism. So if those are topics that are really touchy for you, just heads up that we plan on addressing some of that in this episode here. And Mandi, I think that certainly from the depiction of people of color in games, or the treatment of people of color in games, I think you and I are amply positioned to speak to that with fair amount of authority, quite frankly, for a variety of reasons. But that's a little bit heavier. I don't know if we want to talk about that now, or if we just want to talk about Gen Con and see what happens.
Well, we can we can just do a quick overall points of Gen Con and then maybe dive into some of those things.
Well, I'll start off by just saying Gen Con was huge. Of course, this is the biggest U.S. convention. I think it's the second biggest in the world, right after the Spiel and Essen. This year, they're reporting, again, record attendance. So about 72,000 people. Wow. They upped their exhibitor count by at least 25 more exhibitors. So 575 exhibitors.
Wow. That's great. That's a lot.
We'll talk about this a little bit more, Mandi, but I think you specifically, but also me kind of through you, are extra aware, in some of our circle, right, like Rose Gauntlet Foundation, are a little extra aware of some of the initiatives that Gen Con has that does support the community and does work to support inclusion in the industry, or at the event at least. And one of the things Gen Con does is they do raise money for a local charity or two every year. And so this year they did raise over $40,000 for Women for Change and for the Brown Toy Box Foundation there in Indy.
Yes.
And look, I have plenty of criticisms of Gen Con. But I think you also have to be fair and recognize where they're succeeding as well. And I think that those kinds of good work that they're doing is worth recognizing. So great job there. Mandi, did it feel like record attendance to you?
I would say, in my opinion, as someone who's just walking around, and I should probably disclose this as well, I do consult with Gen Con as part of their DEI committee. So I'd like to throw that out there so people are aware. It's not something I super advertise, but not that I'm ashamed to do it. I love what we're doing, but it's important for the conversations we're going to have. Walking around, taking it all in, I didn't feel like it felt that much more than before. But then again, I as someone walking around, maybe the times I was going in, it wasn't as packed. I think the first day definitely felt a little bit more, but no, I didn't feel like it was additional bodies, I guess you could say. But I don't know, you as a publisher, did you feel like the spacing was a bit more cramped because there are more people, more exhibitors?
I think the incremental growth, I think the vendor count is more impactful than the attendee growth. I think attendee growth is only about 1,000 to 2,000 people year over year, which, when you're talking about that many people, going from 70,000 to 72,000, yay, growth, but it's not like the kind of numbers that would really, I think, impact the way you personally experience the event. I do think adding over 25 new vendors makes a difference.
Absolutely.
Mandi, one of the things that I do is for a variety of reasons, is I go on and around and I talk to a lot of publishers. And one of the items thematically that was the biggest challenge that publishers were expressing is the struggle that they have to secure booth space at this event. GenCon is a huge event, and it's valuable to exhibit there for a variety of reasons for publishers. And in general, every publisher I spoke to said that they asked for more space and couldn't get it. I've also spoken to board game publishers in the industry that asked to exhibit, that submitted to be exhibited. And as far as I know, over 200 vendors were rejected. Not like, oh, you're not good enough, but just for, space and demand and all this other stuff. So it's clear that GenCon is for straining the bounds, the limits of the space, of the city, of even logistically what GenCon can manage. To be fair, just because you have real estate doesn't necessarily mean, I mean, with every 10 new publishers or exhibitors, you got 10 new groups to deal with, asking, things like that. So there's other elements that would control that. But I think adding more vendors is great. I mean, I like it. I know that GenCon is one of the shows that I make an effort to stroll around all the corners, because there are treasures everywhere, in Artist Alley, in Entrepreneurs Alley, all that kind of stuff, even compared to other ones in the state. So I love that. But I know that there were a few empty corners because there were some entities that pulled out based on all the nonsense that's happening in the country and with, the industry and tariffs and things like that. So I thought that was interesting for sure.
I definitely found too there were more events outside of, events outside of the main hall. And as someone who is, and I will point blank say this, because I have to walk around all areas of the convention. Going to the Lucas Oil Stadium is not one of my favorite jaunts. I actually really despise
I
going
don't
out there.
I don't care for it either. Yeah,
I'm so sorry. I know that's where the gaming is played. I know there were a lot more events out there. Even some of the hotels, like I discovered a solo gaming thing that happened. It's from 8 to 10. Yeah, at one of the hotels in one of the rooms, and you can go check out solo RPGs. And if you want to play some for a little bit, you can do that in this room for a few hours. And I think they ran that for a few days, like things like that I had never heard of before. And they're pushing, like, a lot of these events are in some of the hotels and things like that. So it does push it a little further out, which then begs the question, is this venue, like, do we not have to grow with the attendees and the needs of publishers, exhibitors, that may want more space or a space in general? So, I mean, this is a question I think many of us have been asking for a long time. And I mean, I wouldn't be adverse to a move, but
yeah, we've had a little bit of discussion on social media recently about this, and it is a tough equation. And I'm not here to, like, Gamma is one thing. I advocated heavily for Gamma to get out of Louisville, Kentucky, for a variety of reasons, but Gamma is leagues smaller with massive more. The fact is that not every city can host 75,000 people. It's just a lot. And the time of year, and quite frankly, how much it costs. Seattle, the area I live in, could host this event 3 times more expensive in Seattle than it is in Indianapolis. And that would decimate the show, make it impossible for vendors, make it impossible for attendees. So bad choice. As selfishly, I would love to see it here, but I get
great for me. Exactly.
We'll see. I mean, GenCon obviously has a great relationship with Indianapolis because GenCon is one of the biggest events of the year. It brings in almost $100 million of revenue to the city, in the course of a week, that kind of thing. So who knows where that's going to go. I will say, Mandi, this has been one of the most disappointing GenCons for me in the past 10 years because I barely saw you.
I know. I think we saw each other for maybe 3 minutes.
Like, we did one event together, and then we literally were, because oftentimes we will room together or whatever, and we didn't this time, but I exactly like 3 minutes. We were like hallway passers, like strangers.
It was, like, I'm sure, you were busy doing work stuff. I was busy doing work stuff. And then when we did see each other, it was for a work thing. Like, it's just, this was interesting this year. We usually spend some time together, but you're absolutely right. Like, it was definitely a different vibe there.
I know. And normally what happens is that we'll be in like a hotel room or hanging
Sure.
out later at night, and then we just gossip. We just gossip the whole time about all the things that we're hearing. And we didn't get to do that. So we'll have to finish recording the podcast and then
Yes,
grab a cup
have
of
our
tea and gossip or
chats.
something. We'll have to figure that out. I will also say that I met a number of folks out there who are listening, hopefully right now.
Yes.
We met you. A special shout out to Bex. And I'm so sorry. I think their name was Sam, that I saw at the Floodgate Games. Oh my gosh, you two were awesome and just a delight. Thank you so much for listening for as long as you have. We
That's
appreciate you. It
wonderful.
was just really awesome. Also, you took a photo with me. Send it in. I want a copy of the photo. So if you're listening, please drop this to me because I'd love a copy of the photo. But it's so amazing to meet listeners that have been listening since the old days, or just joined us here, and it's really rewarding. And also thank you to everybody who made sure I knew about some of the special games or booths to check out, because I didn't get as much time on the floor as I wanted to, so that was very very helpful. Mandi, the other thing I didn't get to do was visit the BIPOC lounge at all. Did you?
I know. Yeah, so it's being one of the coordinators for the lounge, definitely I was up there a little bit, and then it's also on my list of places I have to visit for GenCon. So it's like I do double duty there. So I was in there hosting an event, the Mixer event. So I host that with Aaron Trammell, who's my colleague with the committee, and popped in from time to time just to see some of the events and just to check in with some of the people that visit, because there are a few people that are like, hey, I remember from last year. And, I just like to have a chat and make sure everyone's doing great. So yeah, it was really, really good this year. I mean, it's always great, but this year was really good because we had more events. We had miniature painting. So thank you to Al Firespray, who was just banging out sessions in there, and to some of the sponsors that we had. And I don't have the list handy. There are quite a few, but thank you so much for all of you who participated. And we'll definitely be doing a shout out on the channels for that. So we had miniature painting. We had RPGs. So we were having people run some RPGs in there as well. We had the mentorship program. That's just what we've done in previous years. And next year, we're hoping to add a few more events as well. So very excited. I mean, it's always a good time. People are always very positive. Obviously, if there's anything that needs adjustments, we take that feedback as well. But it was great. I'm sad you missed some of the new events we put in there, so you could check it out. But there's always next year.
I love that happens. I love that GenCon supports those spaces. And now that you brought it up, Mandi, it's probably as good a time for us to talk about a couple of the controversies that are happening in the industry right around this time. So one of the things that you may have seen if you went to Gen Con is CGE announced that they are doing a second edition of their Harry Potter Codenames game. For those of you, obviously Codenames is an international phenomenon from a success point of view. And for those of you who, anybody who listening to us, chances are they know, but of course, Harry Potter is written by J.K. Rowling, who has made it very clear that she is very anti-trans, that she uses a significant amount of her power and her money to try to basically destroy trans people and oppress them, and using that immense power that she has to do that. So obviously people in the LGBTQ community were really upset by this, because Codenames theoretically, CG is an entity that's well loved and respected in the community of board gamers.
Right.
And it hurt people to see that coming out. So I know that there was an effort especially led by some trans folks in the community, like Marceline Lyman or Lehman. I apologize, I don't know how you pronounce her name, trying to help educate folks and really calling for CGE to say something. I know Jeff Engelstein from the Tabletop Game Designers Association, they were also keeping an eye on it. CGE said that they would make more statements about it, but they haven't necessarily followed up on that at the time of this recording. So if you saw folks handing out little free zines trying to educate people about why, that was hurtful to them, that was an interesting thing. I don't know, Mandi, if you saw any of that happening there.
I did. I think it's important to educate people. And I did see that there was, I think it was a zine or some kind of pamphlet that was being handed out that had information containing, hey, this is why this is hurtful. This is something that you should educate yourself on. I did see those being passed around, and I did take a look at one myself to see what it was about. So I think it was important, and I definitely had talks with the people who were doing that, and they wanted it to be impactful. They didn't want it to come across as, oh, we're doing this just to boycott. No, I mean, they wanted people to understand, and I think that's the biggest thing, is that understanding.
It felt like an effort to educate.
Absolutely.
And I don't know, I look at some of the conversations that I saw about it, and what really struck me is just the hurt that people were feeling, because they were fans. They like the company, they like the game, the root game. They felt like some entity that they supported and that they enjoyed and that they liked had kind of betrayed them, and were actively participating now in some of the activities that harm them. And I, as a human being, if nothing else, like, that's really hard I very much feel for them and understand why they did that. And we'll see what comes from that. And if CGE wants to address it or not, we don't know what they're going to do at this point.
Right.
The other issue that came out, not at Gen Con, but it's interesting to hear some of the chatter, right, is Devir Games has a game that was called Ace of Spades. It was incredibly popular. Like, I heard a lot of chatter at Gen Con about it. But some folks, especially Jeremy Howard of Jambalaya Plays, and then other people have kind of been highlighting as well, noticed that there are a series of cards in this game that use really racist tropes. So you have a quote unquote fugitive that depicts a black man in chains who is slobbering and drooling. You have a card that is a slaver. You have a sitting bull that has a very, you have a shaman, you have a
very
voodoo,
villainous kind
witchcraft
of vibe.
Doctor. You have a number of tropes that are really well-known racist caricatures. And I think it was shocking to some people to see that. And there's again, Mandi, you noticed it. I mean, I know that Kenna from Coyote and Crow spoke out about the depiction of Sitting Bull as a villain in this racist, quote unquote Indian garb and things like that. Do you have any thoughts that you want to share on that, Mandi? I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but
no, not at all, because I did comment on it, actually, because somebody had actually reached out on, and this is not to put that person on the spot, they had probably just heard about it and asked, I was surprised to hear that you didn't have Ace of Spades on your list. And to be honest, at the time, I didn't really know much about it. I was like, oh, we'll probably just get them to send it to us. Devir usually makes good games. It sounds, from the description that I had heard, it sounded like it could be good. And I just heard minimal things. I hadn't seen the art at this point. Yeah, we'll probably ask for it. Come full circle, I'm like, okay, I've seen the art. It's really bad. It's highly offensive to several groups of people. And I think that one of the descriptions of the game, I don't know if you knew this here, the role of the character you as the player need to defeat, depending on how many enemy deck is randomly constructed, this game may require you to fight and defeat a runaway slave in order to win. I did not know about that either. So I was just like, oh my gosh. And I think for me, and again, you and I talked a little bit about this. I know that copies of this game were sent out in advance. Why no? I know for myself, if I had received it, it would have been the first thing I would have mentioned. Now, I don't know the circumstances. I don't know if they got the same game that we're seeing. I'm not making excuses.
That's very true. There's some questions about what was shown at Gen Con. There's discussion. Sorry to interrupt you, Mandi, but there's discussion please. That folks who demoed it at Gen Con are saying we never saw those cards.
Right.
And then the way the game works, it's a solo or two-player game where it's kind of like almost like an event deck, and you flip it over and you deal with what you get. So it is feasible that in a deck of cards, that you don't see every card. But there's some question about, were those cards in the demo decks at Gen Con, because people are reporting that they didn't see them. Anyway, my apologies.
Right. No, that's valid. And some of the reviewers, I don't know what they got. So it's not an excuse. I just don't know what the makeup of the decks were. I don't know what the makeup of the cards were. If they had those and didn't say anything, of course, those are questions. If they didn't, why didn't they have those cards? But these are what's appearing online. Like, there are many questions we don't have answered. I'm just basing, my thoughts and comments off of what I've seen and the descriptions that I'm seeing of the actual gameplay. So for me, this is highly disappointing, because Devir in a whole, we've really enjoyed
I love a lot of Devir games.
a lot of their
Absolutely.
games, and then they've been supportive of us in the past. It hurt me. I was, because I was like, here we are, a company that we really enjoy, and this is something that, and I put this in quotes, slipped by you. I don't think so. This is something that, you would have had to see and approve, and it now makes me question, what
Sure.
you're I don't even have the words for it. I'm trying not to be frustrated or upset here.
Well, and I think your feelings would be valid on that front. I know I've seen some discussions that Devir is a publisher based out of Spain, and that, the caricatures that they're doing are of more American based historical references, like Sitting Bull, or like a African slave, a white slave owner, etc. But we know a lot of Spanish publishers that do historical topics or things like that don't tend to use that. And I think that whether you like it or not, the United States is a massive percentage of the board game consumer market. So if you were making that game and only releasing it in Spain, maybe it would fly under the radar. It doesn't make it right, but but if you are bringing it to the largest convention in the United States, you're clearly marketing this game to American
Right.
players that would be kind of directly impacted by that kind of imagery and perpetuation of horrible caricatures and things like that. So whether or not that, they are from Spain, excuse flies or not, I'm not
And
gonna.
it doesn't. That means you didn't research your market properly, so you weren't doing your job. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's just no
I do. And Mandi, I think
excuse there. And I have to say this
no,
because
please.
I'm part Portuguese. I'm well aware of some of the stereotypes and things that happen. So yeah, that excuse is a little tired. Sorry, Suzanne.
No, not at all. And the intent of this particular episode isn't to do. We wanted to bring it to the table
Sure.
and express how we feel about it. The only thing I want to also say is this: if they don't care, then they don't care. And
Sure.
I would rather have entities say, we think it's funny, we like it, you're being oversensitive, get over it.
You know where you stand.
Now, I won't like that answer, but I will respect and appreciate that lets me know how to think and feel about that entity.
Exactly.
Let's say that this was accidental, unintentional, or whatever. This could be completely avoided with the use of cultural consultants. And
absolutely.
I serve as a cultural consultant. Mandi, you have in the past.
Yep.
I also, in my work, because I do work with a board game publisher as well, we do make an effort to employ consultants when we are representing cultures that are not our own, especially of people that are traditionally systemically oppressed or misrepresented in our nation. So, I have been a big proponent of cultural consultants from day one.
Yep.
I think they add a lot of value. Moreover, they can bring things to the table that you wouldn't have thought of, that make your game more fun, that make it more interesting, et cetera, et cetera. So I wish that they would consider that. Maybe in the future they will. I feel like it was an unforced error or something worse, but I'll call it an unforced error at this point.
I do want to just quickly add that, and I think we've mentioned this before, whether it be online or other things, when you're thinking of a theme for a game, especially a game where the theme could literally be about anything. I just sometimes wonder why people seemingly go for such themes as, slavery and things like that, when it could be something that, do you know what I mean? For these types of games, that it's not even seriously discussing this topic. It could literally be about anything. Maybe that's something to consider when you're doing these types of games as well. And then bring in, your cultural consultant, like you were saying.
Well, to wrap that up, not ironically, but we had mentioned a couple of things earlier in the episode about some of the things GenCon does, but one of the things that you do is work with the DEI committee, and one of the things GenCon does at the end of the show is they host a panel of the GenCon leadership speaking with attendees or to attendees directly about the initiatives that they have underway to try to make GenCon more inclusive, safer, and better for all attendees in that regards. And so, Mandi, I just moderate the Q&A. That's all I do for it. But Mandi, you and Aaron are the ones that are doing a lot of the consult work. So do you have anything that you want to highlight from that discussion this year?
I do, actually. And one that that we talked about specifically that I know I had mentioned, Aaron had mentioned as well. And I was really happy to see that, again, not perfect. And these are things we're going to be discussing at a later time. But the ASL interpreters, I was really happy to see them at a lot of the panels or inset in videos so they could be seen on the screen. Even I'm a little rusty, but I used to have a friend. I have to do sign language and even remembered some of it. So my name is Mandi. Oops, I. So if you're watching the video, you'll see it. For those, you got to watch the video, see my little rusty sign language. But those are sorts of things that matter. And I think that was really appreciated. Again, it's not perfect. I would really like to see those at all of the panels and definitely have them all recorded or at least on the videos. So that was probably the one big one that I was like, oh, okay, great. We're pushing forward to doing that. We also, the accessibility booth was being used. That was something that we had discussed previous years. I was in a wheelchair for a couple of times at GenCon, so I got a taste of what it's like for someone who has to be in a wheelchair all the time. Do you know what I mean? Or is not able to access certain things, and it's frustrating. So that really allowed me to see some of the things that people have to go through. So having that accessibility booth, allowing people to get into events a little bit sooner, having seats that are accessible to them so they can settle in before the big crowd comes in, so it's not uncomfortable. These little things I see are happening. Again, not perfect, but they're working on it. So I can see that they're listening to some of the things that we're presenting. These are just a small few things. There are other things that we need to look at, such as signage. Signage is a big one. Signage is one that I think we could do better, trying to find specific bathrooms, or just I find the signing decreases as you get further into the convention. We need to do better with things like this. So these are all things that we will put into our report that Aaron and I do at the end. So that's going to be coming soon. And they make a list of priorities. Now they try to do as many as they can. Again, it's not all going to happen at once, but they are looking at it. So this is where I drop a shameless plug. If you have any suggestions or things, Aaron and I hand out cards. Email us. Seriously, they will come to us. And these are things that we can say, hey, these are things that people notice. We need to talk about it. And there's a customer service at GenCon. In the subject line, you can add Mandi and or Aaron and whatever your subject is and send it to customer service at gencon.com.
I love it. I love it. I'm glad that you helped connect me to that process a little bit, Mandi, because I didn't know everything that was going on, and I respect the entity and their efforts so much more knowing and seeing that in action. And I'm glad. And even just having you and Aaron as part of that leadership and consultancy on that front, I think is measurably awesome. So that's very, very cool.
Thanks.
So that was some of our GenCon experience. And honestly, it was largely positive. Tuesday and Wednesday, it was way too hot out. It was like 90 degrees Fahrenheit. Oh, and
I knew how hot it
clear,
was,
folks,
based on how big my hair got.
Yeah, I'm not stereotyping, because I was part of this problem too. When it's that hot out and you get that many people walking around and sweating, and then you throw them in a room together. Just saying, yikes, yoikers. But I had a great time in general. I got to see my colleagues, which was amazing. I did get to see a ton of great games that I'm so excited to talk about, including some of the ones that were in our last episode when we talked about games that we were anticipating. Some I didn't get to peek at, unfortunately, but that's
I got to pick up a couple.
Show off. I did too, actually, but yeah, we'll talk about that soon. Mandi, I think we'll just talk about a couple of games because we want to do that, or no? What are you feeling?
Yeah, just super quick. Actually, mine's going to be super quick because it's an oldie. I just wanted to do like a little shout out, if that's okay.
Yeah, and then we'll serve up a tasty little quick game pie and call it a show.
I know it's not our norm. Everybody will be back to programming as usual next episode. So
everybody that's hanging with us nowadays, they
know. Y'all know the drill. Okay, super quick. And for those who followed us previously, you'll know I've talked about a lot of Steffenfeld games. This one in particular makes my heart sing. And that is, as I like to say, Trajan, or Trajan is what it's probably normally known as. And this is designed by Steffenfeld. Art is by Joe Hartwig. And the publisher, it says Eminent Spiel, but I think Hutch, I can never say that. There are a few publishers that it's under. Plays 2 to 4 players, and it plays in about 60 to 120 minutes. I won't get into too too many details here because I believe I have talked about this many moons ago. But I specifically like this game because it has that whole Mancala thing happening where you take an action, you got to pick up the pieces in one area. So if I've got 3, I got to drop 3 in clockwise order, and wherever I end up, that's the action that I end up taking. Heyo! So if you've played Ostia, which we've talked about on the show, I believe they said they got inspiration from this game. This is set in ancient Rome, and you're trying to increase your influence and powers of Rome. And quickly in the game, every player has their own board. You have the board with like little bowls I was talking about with the different pieces, because remember, this is what you're going to use in order to determine your actions. There are a variety of actions on the board, and what I like about it is you'll have some actions that are kind of like an area control part of the map where you're trying to get people out and take over certain areas to get points or be the first ones to get to an area to get certain tiles. Or it's a set collection part of the board. With cards, you're trying to acquire different types of cards, similar types of cards, depending on which objective you finish, you'll get points. There's another area where you're trying to get tiles, and those tiles, depending how many of you get a certain tile, will get you certain points at the end of the game. Or having certain tiles of another section of the board will help you feed your people. That's right, because at the end of a certain amount of rounds, you got to feed your people.
Of course.
And yeah, I was really bad for that for the first few rounds, and you lose quite a bit of points if you don't do that, but these tiles can help you out. You get the idea. I won't go into too many details, and of course, it's not a Feld game without some sort of influence track. And there's that. So in this case, it's like your political influence track, which I was horrendous at. So, and then after set amount of rounds, then you're going to count up your points and any end game points that you have. Add that to your score, and whoever has the most points wins. That's a very quick skippy-doo summary of a Trajan, as I like to call it. But this is one of my favorite games. I had the pleasure of taking it out and teaching it at a game night to those who had never played it. They all loved it. And I realized, wow, it's an oldie, but and it's not even that old, but oldie but a goodie. Anyway, if you haven't played it, it's what I highly recommend trying, and that is Trajan.
Amazing. I love that. And I love that Stefan Feld action for you, Mandi. I'm glad you brought it to the table.
Yeah.
I actually have a new to me game that I wanted to just mention. And part of it is because it turned out to be a perfect travel game. I was lucky to get a copy of Tic-Tac-Trek at GenCon from Alley Cat Games. This is, okay, it's in a tin.
Okay.
I have feelings about board game tins, but it's adorable. It's pocket size. It's got a great art style on it. And this is designed by Trevor Benjamin and Brett J. Gilbert, which if you don't know these people, you should. They designed a 2-player game called Mandala, which is one of my favorite 2-player games ever. They designed the Guild of Merchant Explorers. Well, Brett did with Matthew Dunstan.
That's a good one.
Like, these two have serious design cred. So even though it's this silly little, I'm not trying to diminish it, this little game in a tin that's very affordable, under $20. The design cred on this is ridiculous. We've got illustrations, graphic design by Rory Muldoon, as I mentioned, published by Alley Cat Games.
Yeah.
What this game is, it's a 2-player only game, and it's called Tic-Tac-Trek because, hello, it's like a take on Tic-Tac-Toe. What? You get this tiny tin, you're going to get little wooden tiles, and they've got a variety of little terrain patterns on them, so maybe trees or water, bluish stuff, that kind of thing. And then they'll have an X and an O, an X on one side and an O on one side. Then each player also gets a little handful of little campfire tokens, wooden tokens, and they're upright. Some will have an O base. I'm making gestures on the camera that I probably shouldn't.
That's okay. People who are watching will see it.
I just don't want to make the wrong gesture here by accident. And some have the O. Well, context matters. Some have the O base and some have the X base. So you're going to pick X's or O's, and then you're going to seed the tile with an X and an O tile at random, and then you're going to draw a tile and place a tile. Draw a tile and place a tile. Until all the tiles are done, game's over, you score. The way this works is when you draw a tile, you put it face up with your icon, whether you're the X or the O, and it has to be adjacent to a terrain tile that is already on. So if I draw a fire token and there's already fire tokens on the table, I got to put my X face up next to one of those fire tokens. If there's not a matching one, water's wild, or you can put it wherever. Cool. When you connect 3 of your icons, X or O, in a row, you got to tic-tac-toe, and you get to put one of your little campfires on the tile you just placed that will score you points at the end of the game. Dead freaking simple. The twist that kind of makes this work, that is, of course, what you would expect from these designers, is that the campfire score at the end of the game for the number of empty tiles around them. The number of empty tiles around them. So it gets really interesting because if you put your campfire next to an opponent's campfire, you're both getting similar points. When you have an empty tile that you can't, do you want to try to complete a tic-tac-toe, or do you want to put that empty tile next to one of your campfires that's way off out in the nowhere zone so that you guarantee yourself a point that your opponent probably isn't going to be able to capitalize on? It's very clever. And for such a simple, light game, it's got just enough that you want out of a 10-minute game. Like, it just strikes a balance. It's like, this is not chess. This is not some weird, heavy, abstract game. No, this is a quick, portable, 15-minute game that has a delightful aesthetic and a really good feel that does exactly what it needs to do. I really, really enjoyed Tic-Tac-Trek. You can play it on, it's small enough and compact enough, you can play it on the TV tray, the food tray of an airplane, or on the back of a backpack at the seats as you're waiting for the plane. Ask me how I know. So that is Tic-Tac-Trek. I really like it. I'm really glad I got it. It's going to be kind of a, in the pocket kind of game for me.
I hadn't even heard about this. So yeah, this might be one I might have to check out to add to my travel collection.
I think it would be really great for you in your travel pack.
Sweet.
I also think your mom might like this one.
Oh, probably. And then she'll be able to brag how much she destroyed me.
Alrighty. Well, that's actually all the games we're going to be talking about this episode. We promise we'll have more soon.
Well, I'll have more next episode.
But it's not a show, Mandi, if we don't serve up a pie.
Oh, yes.
And our sweet little game pie of this episode is some of our favorite games from publishers in Spain. All right, folks, it's time for Game Pie. And as mentioned, the game pie of the show is games from Spanish publishers, i.e. publishers rooted in Spain. There are a lot of board game publishers in Spain, which is awesome. And there are some really, really great ones, including some of my favorites, and great ones who've made lovely, fun games that deserve highlighting.
Absolutely.
Mandi, would you like to serve up the first slice?
Yes. Well, my first slice of games that were from Spanish publishers, I guess. Are we doing publishers / designers? Publishers?
No,
okay.
publishers.
Publishers. I've talked about this game on the stream. I think Suzanne also has this game, and it's solo. Don't at me. It's Witchcraft. I think in Spanish. I know bruja is witch, but I think in Spanish is brujeria. Brujeria. So someone will correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's what it is. And Witchcraft is, well, what you might think it's about. It's a coven of witches that try to prove their innocence and defend a village from the supernatural. And they've got some really fun, kind of almost Halloween-esque art on the cover that I like a dark theme, and it has a bit of the cartoon vibe, but like in a very artistic way. But I am here for it. And it literally is probably one of the hardest games I've played to win. In your quest to fight all the baddies, it's mostly cards that you're working with and abilities, and you're trying to cycle through your deck. And just, I am so bad at it, but I really enjoy it. And I'm always trying to be better. So very close to a win, hoping that I can get there soon. But Witchcraft is it's quite fun. And if you haven't tried it, if you like a good solo game, you might enjoy this one with a challenge.
I love it. And if for folks who've played Resist from the same publisher, it's a similar system. Resist is, of course, their game about the Spanish Civil War, but Witchcraft kind of takes it to the next level. Wow, good one. First up for me, I'm a little cheating. I just want to call out Nestor Games. Well, because I realize that Nestor has so many games, and they're a little hard to get, unfortunately. But if you can seek them out, it's worth it. Nestor Games focuses on really delightful, mostly abstract games. They often are packaged in like these little cloth bags, these little cloth pencil cases. And I thought the one I would talk about is Twigs, which is this tile laying game where you have surrounding pieces and things like that. But I was looking at all my Nestor games, and I just think that what Nestor does is unique in the industry and deserves more highlighting. In fact, I should dig them out and make sure I've reviewed more of them. So Nestor Games, a publisher from Spain, doing some really cool pure abstract games.
I feel like I know a lot of their games, but I don't know if I've actually played a lot of them. So
it's very possible. They are a little like
Yeah.
you got to kind of work to get them,
Like, look,
unfortunately.
totally get that. My next slice of pie is, well, it's not really pie, more of a cupcake. Cupcake Empire. And I also want to highlight this as well, even though it is a Spanish publisher, it's Ludonova. The designers are Canadian and live in my city, and that's Aladuc and Yves Tourigny. And it's exactly what it sounds like. You're baking cupcakes to sell, to build your cupcake empire. And this also holds a special place in my heart because it's a game that Suzanne and Ashley decided they want to destroy me instead of each other. And jam pants. I mean,
jam pants. The meeple with the little jam pants.
Little jam stain on their pants. But it is mainly like a dice game, and I think you're using your dice as workers. It's been a little while since I've played it, but it can be, I don't want to say cutthroat. It's not, but it kind of is.
It was in that medium, like what we would call a medium weight game, but definitely had a little bit of tooth to it for such a delightful cupcakes theme. But it had a little bite to it.
Yeah, and it was a good time. So I really enjoyed that. So that's Cupcake Empire.
Love it. Next up for me is Take a Seat from Salt and Pepper Games, same publisher as Witchcraft. I love Salt and Pepper Games. Honestly, they have such great taste in what they pick and develop. Take a Seat is a roll and write game, folks. It is actually quite unique, though, in that sense. So Take a Seat has you doing seating arrangements in a theater, which could sound dull, but it's completely not. You have some player interaction in this one that is delightful that you don't often see. Like a lot of roll and writes are a little bit more multiplayer solitaire. And this is really what you would almost call like a choose and write. There's no dice in this. But as you're filling in seats and you're passing, you're sharing a board between you and your neighbor, and you're marking off things that you are doing. So you're kind of competing in that way. It's incredibly clever. It is, like I already said, it's unique in the space, and it really stands up. It's not that old, but it really stands up. If you have not had a chance to play Take a Seat yet, and you like roll and write games, I highly, highly recommend this one.
I feel like I've played it, and I feel like you may have shown it to me. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure we have.
A couple years ago, though. And,
but I remember enjoying it. So yeah, what's time? Well, my last slice of pie, so games from Spanish publisher Pie, is, well, another one from Aladuc, and that is Yukon Airways. And this was published by Ludonova, so there's a theme here. And I think this one was really fun, too, because it is from... the designer is from the place that they're talking about. And it's another one that uses dice. I do like when you use like workers as dice. And,
I love it. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. I don't know what it is. And this has like a draft system, and you're trying to get to like different locations on the map. So different points of interest. And at the end you earn money based on locations that you've visited, and person with the most money wins. So Yukon Airways, it's a strong one. If you haven't played another one, I'd recommend you check it out.
Love it. And my final slice of favorite games from Spanish publishers is 1987 Channel Tunnel from Looping Games. Now, I'm just going to tell you up front, Looping Games, one of my all-time favorite publishers. They are among the best at packing a really meaty game into a very, very small box.
Yeah,
and
that's pretty cool.
I could have picked a number of their titles, but 1987 Channel Tunnel still stands up as one of my all-time favorites. It is a 2-player worker placement game about digging the channel tunnel. So one is playing from the British side, one is playing from the France side, and you're digging towards the middle. There's a little mechanism about staying in alignment and all this other stuff, but really the heart of the game is in the clever, unique worker placement mechanism. And by the way, this is also designed by Isra C. and Shay S. of Llama Dice Games, and wonderful people as well. I just want to call that out. This one you get discs as workers essentially, and when you take a worker placement spot, it's blocked. So if you put a disc there, it's blocked. But I can come over and take over that by putting more discs on top of it. So Mandi, if you placed one, I could come in with 2. and take over that spot.
Nice.
Then you could come back over with 3 and take over from me. So it's this kind of escalating. How much do you want to invest workers? How important is that spot to you, that ground? It's incredibly clever. I love it. 1987 Channel Tunnel from Looping Games.
Those games are so hard
good.
to get in Ottawa, and I would really, or like in Canada, I feel
They
on a
can
whole.
be.
So
For
hoping
what
to
it's worth,
get my
I believe
hands
the
on some.
Board Game Geek store does sell a number of their titles. So I think they shipped to Canada. So maybe fingers crossed that makes it
Hopefully.
easier.
Yeah, we'll have to see.
But there you go. Some games from publishers in Spain that we love and have great themes and great settings and are delightful to play. With that, Mandi, I think we'll call it a wrap. I know we're both still recovering a little bit, jet lag for me and just con drop and things like that. So we will call it. Heyo, if you want to share any of your stories about anything that we discussed, including anything interesting or troublesome or awesome that happened to you at GenCon, you can always email us at saltandsassgames@gmail.com. We will also have a thread on our boardgamegeek.com guild. That's guild 4131. It's a mouthful. Oh my goodness.
No, it is.
And you can chime in there with any stories or thoughts or opinions or ideas that you have there. Or social media is a decent place to hit us up as well.
Yes, and all the socials. I feel like my brain is buffering a little bit. So
Fair.
bear with me if I can't find my words. Yes, but yes, we are on the socials. You might be watching us right now on the Twitch or YouTube, and you can find us there at Salt and Sass Games. That's Salt and Sass Games. You can also find us on Blue Sky. We've got a little professional there at Salt and Sass. You can find me on Blue Sky and Instagram. I think that's it these days at 613 Mandi. That's Mandi with an I. How about you, Suzanne?
And you can find me on Blue Sky. I'm at 425 Suzanne. As always, it is a pleasure and privilege to be podcasting with you. Seriously, folks, it's always events, it's always conventions where we get to talk to some of you or catch up with old con friends. I mean, some of you now are just convention pals, right? We just see each other at conventions and we get to say hi and catch up a little bit. It's so rewarding and so awesome every time, and we appreciate you immensely. So thank you so much for being here and listening and putting up with our shenanigans and supporting us and being part of our extended gaming family. Until next episode, when we have more games to talk about, just take care of yourselves, stay hydrated, and play a lot of games. We'll see you next time.
Promotional consideration has been provided by game publishers in the form of review copies of games. If you'd like to support the podcast, please check us out on coffee.com/saltandsassgames. Thank you for your support. We are also part of the Goonhammer Media Network. Check out more of their content on media.goonhammer.com. Salt and Sass is produced with love by Mandi and Suzanne, and we'll be back next episode with more salt, more sass, and more games.